Hi friends, the Thack here on the Noobs. I thought I'd take a look at Cyberpunk 2077 again, and see if after all the bad press that the game's had over the last couple of months, is it now a dead game, or are people still playing it? So today I'll think about Cyberpunk and do a bit of an assessment to see, is Cyberpunk 2077 dead? Let's just rewind for a second, and I think it's fair to say the whole gaming world is aware of what's happened to Cyberpunk 2077 so far. It was one of the most anticipated games of 2020. In fact, it might even be one of the most anticipated games of all time. It had 8 million pre-orders, and that's a hell of a lot of pre-orders. However, it's also had one of the worst launches in gaming history, and the media coverage on it has been pretty crazy, because there was so much wrong with it, particularly for old consoles. Pretty much every gaming news outlet, even mainstream news outlet, was reporting how bad it was. And to be fair, it's understandable. You can see the performance on really old consoles and it looks pretty bad. But on the flip side, if you've got a good console, for example I've got the Series X, or if you've got a decent PC, the game actually runs quite smoothly, apart from a few little bugs here and there, which I guess is expected on any game anyway, so overall, I think the game itself is actually decent if you've got the right hardware for it. Now, all of these shenanigans has led to CD Projekt Red having to issue refunds, and even Sony removing the game from their digital stores on PlayStation. It was even reported that Shroud had said he wanted the game to die, although this isn't actually how it sounds. When I looked deeper into it, he was saying he wanted it to die as a joke because it was such a good game and he was getting so immersed in it, and because it's a solo game, he didn't want to waste so much time playing it, and so he made that joke. And so we come to today. Is Cyberpunk 2077 dead today? I mean, it's only been out a month and a bit. Let's start by looking at how many people are still playing it. According to Steam figures, there are still 131,670 people that played Cyberpunk 2077 in the last 24 hours. The average for the last 30 days is actually 274,000 players. Now that's still a significant number of players playing the game, and that's just for Steam on PC. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually get the console numbers, but I still think that's enough to go by, because Steam is one of the most popular platforms across any console, and it does put Cyberpunk 2077 as the 6th most played game on Steam. To give you some perspective of this, so GTA 5, a relatively similar game, had 115,000 players over a 24-hour period, and 162,000 average over the last 30 days. If we compare it to another popular game, Apex Legends, well, Apex Legends averaged 63,000 players over the last 30 days, with a 24-hour peak of 106,000. So even this is a lot lower than Cyberpunk, so clearly there's still a lot of people playing Cyberpunk 2077 consistently. I guess it's fair to say Cyberpunk is still a new game, so maybe that's to be expected, but if the game was so dead, you definitely wouldn't have that many players playing it. Let's also talk about what's coming up for Cyberpunk 2077, because I guess by definition, dead game doesn't just mean there's no one playing it, it also means there's no updates or new content coming or planned for the game. Now Cyberpunk, it seems there will be big updates coming in January and February to potentially fix a lot of what was wrong, particularly on old gen consoles. So again, big updates will be coming, although these are mostly fixes. There are also some questions over CD Projekt Red, and how much they'd be willing to invest in terms of time and money into Cyberpunk 2077, given that it has such a bad launch. Because if we think about it, the plans they had before that we were all getting excited about, such as multiplayer mode, all of the DLC content that could come, that was all based on the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 was so anticipated, it was looking like it would be a stratospheric gaming world that would maintain its status for years to come. But with such a bad launch, I guess we have to question this. We've even seen the company, CD Projekt Red's, share price drop massively since launch. Looking at the graph, you can see the hype for launch was at around 8 million pre-orders, and the share price boosted to 443, but that dropped heavily after all of the issues, and today, well, it's closer to around 240, just a little bit below it in fact. There are also lots of rumours of a reshuffle with shareholders threatening to sue, executives being fired, and devs quitting. With all of this upheaval and financial issues, do you really think the company would continue to invest in this game? Well, to be honest, I think some of that's a little bit over the top. The game is still being played by a lot of people, and while there were lots of complaints at the start and bad press, it's quieting down quite quickly. I think gamers do forget stuff like this quite quickly if the game can bounce back with great content and great fixes. And the message from CD Projekt Red is that they are still building stuff for Cyberpunk 2077. Even if it is just patches and fixes, they're still committed to doing all of that stuff. And like I said, I think gamers are quite patient, and I think for the most part, they do understand when there are flaws. As long as they're fixed, I think gamers are willing to come back. I think the drama around Cyberpunk 2077 will eventually die down, and the game itself, I think that's here to stay. I hope you enjoyed this investigation and reflection of Cyberpunk 2077. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're looking to build a really fun buddy community here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.